Hello everyone! This week I have a special game submitted by iongrey. You might know him from our streams or from our TT series tournament. He is after all our Season 5 TT Masters winner. But this game belongs to our other tournament called Weekly Shogi Ladder. It's number 100. It is a tournament organized by Foradun on our server, and yes, they've done it for over 100 weeks. It is my habit to join the ladder when it hits big numbers. This time I joined and I was paired against Ion. And this is the game he submitted. Let's take a look how it went. So Karo decided to play Static Rook in this game, and Ion played his favorite 4-5 Rook. Here Karo's plan was maybe to go for the Gangi Castle, but because Ion chooses the 4-5 Rook, Karo changes plans and goes for Elmo Castle. Elmo Castle is a modern castle that was actually taught by a software that's name is Elmo. So the both king will castle, and here Ion will push the 6-5 pawn and 7-5 pawn. So 4-5 rook is generally a strategy that will wait for opportunity to counterattack. The main question will be, how do you wait efficiently without passing a move? Developing on the castle side is one of the options. Here I think Ion is going for the Shining Dragon strategy, is a new one. He uses the gold 5-2 and gold 6-2 shape to make a castle called Cozy Castle. It's also one of the newest castles. But I think it is a little bit unusual to push those two pawns so early and together in pair. So this is why I decided to attack here. But of course, I'm not so used to static rook, so you will see I made many mistakes. I start with pawn 3-5 and silver advancement, and here Ion pushes this pawn, which is a great pawn push, threatening pawn promotions in the future. And I play rook 7-6. I probably should have pushed the 2-4 pawn. It is usually a good move for static rook to sacrifice this pawn before the fight starts. If they were to take it with the bishop, I can move my rook up and I kinda gain tempo later on. My main concern was that if I push this pawn, pawn takes, and maybe I would like to play this, but I was afraid that this pawn promotion will drag my knight upward and I'm gonna lose my knight. But I had a great move here, which was pawn drop 3-4. If the bishop goes back, I can actually jump this knight over here, because you can see that this bishop on 2-2 is now unprotected, so if knight is taken, the bishop is lost. Naturally, pawn gets promoted, and here I can take this pawn, activate my rook, force this silver to be pinned to the defense of this pawn, and finally move it to here, which, as you can see, would be much more efficient while activating my knight, while activating my silver, while getting rid of this 2-5 pawn, then putting the rook to 2-6, way more efficient. One example of continuation would be something like this, for example. Yeah, forcing this gold to walk away from the castle. So this is one line I could have tried. Speaking of the 4-5 rook counterattacks, we said 4-5 rook waits for the counterattack. The key move to do so is the 4-5 pawn. The reason why is it so strong is that it activates the rook and the bishop lines at the same time, allowing strong exchanges, strong pressure. Here I played bishop exchange. I didn't want to get my king off to this diagonal so that my rook and king were forked. Bishop exchange, and I move my silver to here. But according to the computer, this was preferred because the silver and the rook would still attack together. One example would be this. Gode has a nice threat here, pawn drop 3-6, because if the rook takes, this gold will be forked together with the rook. So here, maybe it is a close fight after this pawn push. Just one thing I wanted to point out is that in Elmo Castle, a good point is that whenever enemy attacks those two squares, our pieces will be a little bit further off compared to, for example, boat castle. When you have the boat castle here, Pawn promotion would directly attack this gold, but having the gold here or here, that means we have more freedom to ignore enemy attack for one move. Also, this gold will give us more protection over the edge attacks. You will see a little bit of it later. So silver 5-5, and this is where Ion could have taken a little bit of advantage. Of course, we sacrificed the rook pawn before attacking, similarly to what we should have done here. What Ion played was gold, but pawn push was a little bit better. If the silver were to go here, it's being trapped with the Gin Basami, and if silver were to take it, the rook will take this pawn while attacking the gold. If we protect it, then the silver is falling once more. So Ion made a passing move here, and maybe this is when we could have taken this chance to block the rook and drop the bishop, threatening promotion, threatening maybe pressure on the king. A very close fight would continue after rook takes, pawn promotion, knight takes, and bishop drop to 1-5. As you can see, we can keep a pressure on the knight, or once more fork those two pieces together. Karo finally decided to push the 2-4 pawn, and here Ion took it with the pawn. According to the computer, silver takes is a little bit better. Of course, the bishop drop will happen again, threatening promotion. But we had a rather interesting move here, suggested by the computer, 1 for bishop, and here bishop sacrifice to get rid of this defender pawn. Bishop takes. So we have silver bishop exchange, and something like this, a close fight would continue. Sente is the aggressive one, but is missing a little bit of material. This is why it's not one-sided. So why pawn takes was bad is that pawn drop to 3-4 forces the silver off the way, and here there was a very good move for Sente, which is bishop drop 5-1. The rook escape would allow the bishop to go here. And as we said before, rook taking here will be always a good move. Sabaki attacking this gold here. So we kinda put a double protection on this pawn using this promoted bishop. We also give protection to the rook. So that would be a great bishop to have. So bishop drop to 5-1 was the better move instead of the simple rook takes. From here, there are many complex moves, but Sente somewhat keeps the advantage until move 61. So let's see a little bit how it developed. Pawn promotion, if silver takes, the rook can promote, so knight takes, rook moves sideways, bishop drop, trying to fork those two pieces, bishop drop in order to sabaki here. There were better moves pointed out by the computer, but generally Sente had the advantage. For example, Karo could have ignored this move, as previously explained. If I would take my own advice, basically this pawn is far away from my castle, so I could have played a different move like knight drop to 5-5 and attack strongly, but because I took it with the dragon, my attack became slower, and this was still winning for Sente. This is where Ion started dropping amazing bishops to the board. Obviously we cannot take it because there is the horse here. It's forking our two pieces, so the silver will escape. Bishop promotes, and here is the move 61. This is where Sente could have taken the advantage by taking the rook here. What I did is I dropped the silver here. Horse took, king took, and rook escaped. So basically this rook escaping to 1-2. This is actually pretty hard to capture. It takes a lot of move, a lot of effort, while this was pretty simple. And this move like this is possible because we have this gold here protecting the edge. It happens in Elmo Joseki, as opposing to the both castle Josekis, that we just allow this horse to take the lance and be like, okay, what you gonna do next? Type of situation. And this was one of them. This would allow much faster attacks, from our side. So since the rook escaped, Ion will be the one holding advantage. If you look closely on this position, it's really hard for Sente to find a good attack on this castle. Really difficult. We have only bishop and knight, and the horse is protecting all the square in the center. It was really hard to find anything. This pawn drop is very slow, and this is why Gote has the advantage here. So Ion correctly finds the weakness of the castle. Now that the lance is gone, the edge is much weakened, and he uses the expose the king technique that we studied on our Thursday streams by dropping the pawn to 9-7. King takes, and it runs away from those defenders, being in a very, very weak spot. It's clear that Gote is winning. Ion felt like he needs more pieces, so he took the knight. And then Karo does her best to make somewhat of an attack and to block off this horse. And Ion goes for the edge attack once more. So the biggest question of this game that we will have is, how can Gote win this game? And I really tried to find the best answer, and it required me to study some very deep lines with the computer. The problem with computer is like, they're gonna show you one move and they're gonna like, this is good. And then you're like, why? What if they do this? Then the computer's like, this is good. And then you have to literally force it to show you the 20 moves deeper to like, why is it? But fact is that in Shogi game, once one side has huge advantage, many moves are good. Sure, they are not the best moves, as the computer would like you to think, like this move is the best. Many moves are good. Some of the moves will be more human-like. Some of the moves will be like sharp computer lines. So yeah, let's study this little bit in the practice here, shall we? It's gonna be a little bit difficult, but it's gonna make sense in the end. So again, the question is, how can Gote actually win? I asked the computer, and instead of going on direct attack on the king, it chose to what I would call bully the attackers a little bit. It will have certain goal in mind, so let's try to find it out together. By the way, speaking of human way of thinking about position, there is a proverb that helps us. It is, if you have a small advantage, go for strong moves. If you have huge advantage, go for slow moves. So let's see what the computer proposes. Well, first of all, Ion in this game dropped the knight, but the computers prefer to simply take this pawn and drag the king further into this unsafe territory. The move that's gonna be played the most often will be this one, horse taking the lance for free while attacking the rook. It is clear that if we get the rook drop here will completely encase this king away from his castle, so we have to avoid giving that away. Let's say we go to dragon 3-5. Here computer proposes few moves, so let's take a look at it. One of them will be pawn drop 4-5. Both bishop and the dragon can take it. If the bishop takes it, pawn drop 3-4, dragon 4-4, and horse takes 4-6. So this is the move I want you to look at. The horse is no longer in the corner. It's somewhat being activated. Let's not overcomplicate it. Let's go here and say, what if the dragon takes this pawn? Well, the computer goes on forcing the dragon to dance, attacking the bishop. Bishop will run away from this diagonal. Lance will take the knight, now that it's not pinned, right? It was indirectly pinned by this bishop. Here we kind of exchange this knight in hand for this knight, but we also manage to activate the lance. The bishop goes to 3-4, the horse attacks the dragon, we force them to drop a pawn, and again the lance gets even more activated. Once the silver runs away, we have the pawn drop to 9-8. What did we achieve? We took off this attacking knight and promoted our lance. We somewhat tried to activate this horse, and we threw off this bishop of the main diagonal, at least temporarily. And then we decide to drop this pawn. So your favorite sensei Karo is like, okay, but why didn't we do it earlier? So of course, crazy I am, I tried to check that line. And don't worry guys, it's going somewhere, it's going somewhere. You don't have to understand this whole line, but we're gonna find out main points based on that. So dragon 3-5. What if we drop simply pawn 9-8? The dragon will come here. And once more, the Tesuji that we've seen before, pawn drop 4-5 will come in. Again, dragon will take it. Pawn promotion. 5-1 pawn promotion. Taking this knight. Gold takes. And perhaps the most surprising move of the whole variation, knight drop to 6-5. Here we have little bit aggressive one, 6-1 token, sacrifice. Pawn drop 9-5. Knight drop 8-5. King has to go down. Silver drop 8-7. King 9-9. Silver promotion. And yeah, we kind of ignored the token on 6-1, but you can also see that somewhat we managed those two knights to work together in order to push this king in the corner. Alright. So now it's Sente's turn to be a little bit aggressive, and they go like this, and we completely ignored it. Here the computer goes all in. Then defends a little. So without understanding the whole variation, let's just see the flow of the game, right? So on, the game will continue, but basically what is happening, Gote has a Hishi and Sente won't have a mate, so it means that Gote is going to win. So what did we learn by reviewing this lane by the computer? Well, we saw that this knight to 6-5 enabled this silver drop to 7-7, and we also can notice that in the end, this bishop was very, very inactive, while this rook was really, really strong in defense. So we enabled knight drop, silver drop. We pushed the king into the corner, finally to surround him. I think you guys can feel how strong now this knight move was. Silent, but a very, very strong move. So let's consider it a little bit more in depth. What if they defend this square? Mr. Computer, what should we do in that case? Surprisingly, what computer plays is king to 8-8. Why could be that? Well, clearly it's trying to avoid this line. Should be telling us something. Here the computer was proposing to play pawn drop in front of the king, but I got a little bit tired of the variation, so I just passed one move, so the computer just shows me his clear intention of how to win this game properly. Pawn drop 1-5, king knight 7, lance takes the knight. Yeah, now we can do it. Pawn drop, silver drop 5-4, dragon escapes, lance takes the pawn, pawn drop. We take the silver. Having a silver in hand will ease up our endgame process, right? And here we had the lance in hand, so lance drop. Dragon, if dragon runs, we block it, playing slowly when we have huge advantage. And here we have two options. If they just simply escape, we drop the knight, king runs. Here we activate our horse, attacking this hanging silver. They try to block it, but they fail miserably. And this is easy to see line already. This is no defense position. So the move that computer is proposing again is to delete this very strong knight, even at the price of sacrificing the dragon. If pawn takes, suddenly we don't have much attack, right? King will run to not allow rook drop, horse will come in, talking comes in. But again, we're gonna slow down because we have huge material advantage at this point. Slow down, defend everything. Trying to activate the lance together with the knight. Computer is very, very sharp. From this moment on, the computer was playing very bad moves. It was clear that Gote has huge advantage. Basically, Gote is able to defend everything and then slowly approach the enemy king, leading to no defense situation. My first conclusion from this was computer plays effective and boring shogi. There is no excitement in there. But we can learn few important things about the position that I mentioned earlier. How does Gote win in this position? What could be our game plan? Well, we saw this move many times. Horse taking 4-6. The horse activation for Gote is a very important thing to do because this is one of our rare attacking pieces. This rook is never going to join the fight. Having this horse activated is very important. What is another piece that we could activate and help our attack? Well, this lance. This lance is attacking this very painful spot for Sente, indirectly surrounding this king. Very important piece to activate. While taking out this knight of the board, taking off this lance of the board gives us more material to attack. Now, what was the other thing that Gote did, being very, very careful about? Definitely, what we've seen is many pawn drops along those lines. That indicates that this bishop is currently the strongest piece for Sente, the most scary piece. The piece that de facto makes us unable to activate that lance. Making this bishop useless in one way or another is one of the other main plans for Gote. We also saw the king move to the side, a very passive move, but again, avoiding bishop line, activating the lance. 2 birds with 1 stone. So how can Gote win this game? Not by directly attacking the king, by taking care of their weaknesses, by activating the pieces they have on the board, and slowly surrounding the king. But I had another question. If the horse activation is so important, what if we try our best to block it? Well, that unfortunately won't work, because pawn drop to 3-6 and lance drop to 2-4, actually we don't have a good piece to block it with. So you will see that eventually those 2 pieces will be forked and the horse will be awoken, yeah? Back to the game. What happened in the actual game? Ion attacked the king directly. Karo had time to make a talking. And Ion did try to activate the lance. Here Karo missed an amazing counterattack. I will give you a few seconds to try to find it yourself. Well, it is talking. 6-1. A light sacrifice. If you're not careful and you take it with the gold, this becomes an open check checkmate. Yeah, double check. The only avoiding is by escape. There's no way to escape, therefore this is a checkmate. If king were to take it, we have dragon coming in, forcing a piece drop. The bishop controlling this line. It's a very hard game for Gote. So the only option they have is to ignore it, and this will actually end up being a very close fight. In the main game, Karo played this weird dragon move, trying to somehow put a pressure on the horse, but giving away the bishop like this was a little bit too scary, so ended up defending a little bit. And don't get me wrong, this is where Gote still continues their domination. It was just a matter of how do we finish it properly. The king is getting slowly surrounded, but Sente's dragon is also getting activated. We're entering endgame. Somehow this 9 managed to get activated, and here Sente got a gold in hand, and Karo tried the last desperate measure, god drop 8-1. This move is horrible. It simply is defended by king moving upward. There is no way to win this game from there. If we give enough pieces to Gote, this king will be in checkmate. But Ion jumped with the knight, so we have the privilege of checking with the dragon. If the king runs, it's a checkmate. So we're forced to use one of the pieces in defense, which makes the possibility of this being a checkmate lower. So a little bit of safe enough to drop the lance here, make a checkmate threat. Has to be defended. And pawn drop was a horrible move. Simple bishop to 1-6 was winning. Yeah, pawn drop, rook takes with the bishop finally. The scariest bishop activated. And this line will lead to a mate. Well, what Ion did was king escape and silver drop led to a simple mate, but gold drop, for example, also would lead to, well, less simple mate. This double rooks on 2 sides just eating up all the pieces for free. This is too much for Gote's camp to handle. 19 moves later, that would lead to a mate. With this great turnaround, somehow Sente managed to win. But iongrey, is a player that continues to surprise our community with his dedication to Shogi and his quick improvement. Meantime, dear watcher, hopefully this video left you with a feeling that you've discovered something new about Shogi. Sorry once more about the difficulty of the variations. Well, see you in the next one.